Kitty and I are coming to you today to talk about something that has apparently been prevalent since 2013. Earlier today, I googled when did cancel culture start? 2013, apparently. And it really started to take off around 2017, and in 2020 is when cancel culture just really, it's a distortion that we are unraveling, I think, or at least I'm over here unraveling it because I've been working on what I want to say to piece this all together eloquently all morning, really. I knew I wanted to say something, I just wasn't sure what it was, so I usually just kind of dilly-dally till these things come to me. I do have some notes. I have a message from Marilyn Monroe. She came to me the other day. Very strongly, too. I mean, I've always felt her, like, my whole entire life, but just, like, the other day, it was just, like, whoa. And also on my birthday, I felt her very strongly this year. But what Marilyn kind of showed me is, she's a very beautiful woman. She's known around the world as, like, a sex icon, like, glamorous, gorgeous, whatever. But beyond that, there was so much more to her. Like, actually, her story was, quite tragic. Like, she lived a really hard life. But still, like, she was, like, this woman that, like, everyone idolized. Same with, like, Princess Diana. Like, not a siren in that same way, I guess. Well, kind of. Like, not quite as sexual, I guess. She was a princess. But it's just, like, there are these women, right? And it's, like, the world is, like, oh, my God, I wish I was them. I wish I could be that beautiful, whatever. And it's just, like, that's only looking at one aspect of that person. Like, we don't really allow people to publicly contain multitudes, because both of these women, again, they had their own struggles, their own issues, like their own internal battles, where it's like they were probably wishing most of the time, like, God, I wish I was anyone but me. Like, why was I given this life? Like, it's so hard. Like, I'm so beautiful. Like, everything should be perfect, but, like, really, like, I have all this, like, inner trauma, and it's like there's no room for me to grieve it, to process it, for me to be anything but perfect, because people see perfect, and so they want perfect, right? And so obviously both of those women died quite early in life, and there's a lot to be said here, I guess. But anyway, so what Marilyn was kind of showing me was just, like, she doesn't feel that she was given that opportunity to really, like, show the world everything she could do. Like, she was an intellectual woman too, but again, because all anyone wanted from her was, like, be sexy, and then a lot of women, like, projected, like, their insecurities and stuff onto her, or just, like, I don't know, it's just, I haven't even watched any movies that they've made about her. Like, everything that I know about her is either, like, from I've read, I have, like, an autobiography or whatever, and just, like, feeling her energy with me. And she's also, she's Leo rising Taurus midheaven. That's me, her, Tony, Anthony Bourdain, Terry Fox. There's a little club of us. We're very special. Anyways, so let me just kind of go over my notes here. So kind of how I'm seeing cancel culture. I mean, I had a few visions today. So one is kind of like the evil queen in Alice in Wonderland, when she's like, off with our heads. Like, that's kind of like what cancel culture is giving. And it's, like, also akin to America is really bad for this. In Canada, actually, I looked up the statistics recently, and in Canada, so, like, I live in a little tiny city, town, whatever, the population here is 65,000 people. In all of Canada, the most recent statistic it gave me, there was, like, 35,000 people incarcerated, I believe. In America, there are millions. And again, there are a lot of those I don't have exact statistics on this, for non-violent drug offenses, right? So that's just kind of like, oh, we're not even gonna, like, give these people an opportunity to, like, be rehabilitated, or, like, be able to vote after, like, serving the sentence or whatever. Like, it's just like, we're gonna completely fuck them up because they did one thing or made one choice that, like, wasn't in alignment with, like, the current system. And I've been reading In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts by, like, Gabor Mate, one of the most fantastic teachers of our time. On the cover of the book, it says, a healer to be cherished, and that is how I feel about him. Like, he is so smart. He has such a good vision for the future. So he worked on, like, Vancouver's downtown east side. East Hastings is a very difficult neighborhood area to walk through. I used to live out in Vancouver, and I would take the bus, like, I worked downtown and, like, went to school downtown, so I would take the bus there pretty much every day, and I would always drive past, like, a tent city, and it was just, like, it was always full of people just, like, living there, and it's, like, pouring down rain, and it's, like, everything they own is in that tent. That's all they have. And, like, that's not even, like, East Hastings itself, like, more so there, that's, like, people actually, like, I've seen people, like, smoking crack, like, injecting drugs, like, in mid daylight. Like, you see all kinds of very hard things. But anyways, Gabor Mate worked down there as a doctor for years. He's written lots of books, like done lots of studies just like on his observations of people. But he kind of has like, he really believes that like prevention needs to start at the first, like, I think he said prenatal appointment. I don't know. But like, basically like when a woman finds out she's pregnant, like, okay, we need to start supporting this fetus right then and there. Like, if they're going to be born into a world that is going to accept them and offer them a place where they can be who they need to be, then like it needs to start at basically conception, you know what I mean? Because right now the society is stuck in guilt and shame traps, right? So like, not only do we like shame people who were like incarcerated or like people who are addicts, but now also it's like we shame people if what they're posting online isn't in alignment with like who we think they are, who we want them to be, or like what is socially acceptable. Like, people are so afraid. Even like, so I was just listening to music, like I still listen to like Kanye West, even though I know like he's said all kinds of like crazy grotesque things in the past few years. To me, I've come to a place where like I'm high vibrational enough where it's like, if I like your music, I can listen to the music and then not let whatever you're doing outside of like that like impact me, I guess. Like, if it's a good song, it's a good song and I'm still gonna listen to it. That's just how I feel. Not everyone is in that place, and that's okay. I'm not gonna like if you were with me and we were listening to Kanye West and you were like, oh my god, I really don't want to listen to that, then I would turn it off. But like, I'm by myself, it doesn't do anything, you know, it makes me happy. So anyways, I'm kind of going all over the place right now, but what I've written here, again, yeah, so we keep humans stuck in the guilt shame trap. So again, like probably in like the 80s, 90s, like mostly this was again like people who had been incarcerated, people who were addicts, like just kind of like social outcasts, black sheep, whatever. Whereas now it's just like, if you like any like leaning any which way, expressing any sort of opinion can like really get you like ostracized very quickly. And so again, I'm Canadian. I don't know exactly what is happening actually with Donald Trump and Elon Musk right now, nor do I really care to know. All I know is that like when I scroll on my timeline on Tumblr, it's just like everyone is talking about them. And I'm like, for people who say that like they hate these people, like, you guys sure are giving a lot of free promotion to the circus. Like, and I'm not learning anything from reading your posts either. Like, as someone who knows nothing about this subject, not really learning much. So I kind of went on a bit of a rant. Like, I woke up and I saw this and I just felt compelled to say, like, I was like, hey, you know, yeah, you guys are giving an awful lot of your energy like to something you claim to hate. So like, your way to take your power back to like kind of escape this cycle of like being stressed out and being like stuck in shame. I want to talk about this on like a nationalistic level too. I might have talked about this in my last video, but if not, then I talked about it with my cousin. Then so I posted like, yeah, this rant just being like, okay, yeah, so like the way to take your power back from these things is to like tap out of the circus and start following your true north, which will make you strong and free. Shout out Canada. That's what I talked about in my last video, right? And then I kind of sat with that for a minute, and then what came to me was like, the reason why people don't want to tap out of like the news cycle right now is actually fear or shame. Like, they're afraid of being uneducated, afraid of not being able to like sit around and bitch and complain with their friends because they don't know about the latest policy change or tariff or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? Like, there is a fear of being ostracized from people because like you won't have anyone to like complain with, you know what I mean? Because it's like, that's how people are bonding these days. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but like I sent a screenshot of it to my cousin. I was like, this just came to me and I feel like it's so good. And she admitted to me, and this made me reflect on like my past too. She's like, you know, like I have a friend that like, she told me that I really like hanging out with you because like whenever we spend time together, it's just like we're just talking shit. And then Emma told me, she's like, and then after that, I didn't want to hang out with her anymore because, like, I had never thought about it before, but then I realized, and then she's like, yeah, like, she never wanted to go out and do anything. She just wanted to sit around and be a hater. And I'm like, I love the self-reflection there, because when I was, like, 19, 20, I used to be the same way. Like, I had, like, a girlfriend, it was, like, all we would freaking do. Like, we lived together, and we were, like, miserable fucks. We hated our lives, and we hated on everyone else. And it wasn't cute. I wasn't thriving back then. I was miserable. I was always looking for like validation outside of myself. And like sometimes the way you get validation is like by hating the same thing. It's easier to hate the same things than it is to like be an individual and really express yourself and like be brave enough to stand alone until someone else is brave enough to say, hey, I like that thing too. It takes a while. but you will find your people if you do it persistently enough and you don't give in to like the low vibe hateful stuff. Like I really just cut a lot of that, I'd say 95% of that out of my life. Like I have a very hard time having like hateful negative conversations that don't, you know, contribute to like growth or whatever, where it's not like, well, at least there's a solution at the end of it, you know what I mean? So what I've said here, people are kind of like, I had a vision almost of like, you know, those shows like To Catch a Predator or wherever, where like people are like, you know, exposing people that are like talking to young children and stuff. Like I think stuff like that is good, but everyone's trying to play like To Catch a Predator, and it's like, well, that's not everyone's purpose. So I said, you can't save the world by canceling everyone. You save the world by facing your own darkness, because that allows you to shine brighter. Like that's why I shine so brightly, because I fully look at like all the parts of me that have been dark and like have been like less than flattering, and I'm able to like accept those. Like one way I've done that recently actually is I told my boss that I'm bipolar. I don't think I've ever told like an employer that before. Like obviously I've like struggled with mental health and whatever in the past, but like I never had a diagnosis. And like since I've had this job, I've worked for them for like like a year and a half now actually, but like I've been like part of management or like an editor since last August. And before that, like I was a writer. Like I was always really consistent, like turning my work in, whatever. And then like as an editor, I've been so consistent. But lately it's just like I mean, this is just the energy in general. Like we've been going through a lot of changes. And also I took myself off my medication back in November, which I'm happy to talk about in a video if anyone is curious about that. But yeah, and like I've talked to my doctor about it and whatever, and like he said that like, you know, as long as I feel good, then like it's good. But anyways, so I had been like on like pretty much like since I got this job, like super great, whatever, and everything was really consistent. So like I thrive when things are consistent. Obviously that's not like the nature of life. So I am kind of like able to like handle curveballs, but for a while there it was just, there was a tower moment. And it was like I was trying to keep up, I was trying to stay organized, and I felt like no matter how much work I did, and mind you, I only have 29 hours a week in my contract, like no matter what I did or what I tried, like I couldn't keep up. There was not enough hours in a day. I'm only one person. And so I had a little bit of a meltdown, but like in a professional sense, you know what I mean? But like I did just say, and I did this actually in a group chat with like my boss, and then also we hired a new editor, and I just kind of expressed, like I was like, hey, so I need to, like, I've never done this before, this just feels really important that, like, I'm transparent, but, like, in 2021, like, I was diagnosed with bipolar, maybe it was 2022, I can't remember, but a few years ago, I was diagnosed, like, after really struggling, like, through my teens and early 20s and all of that, and I told them, like, I was medicated for a few years, but, like, I've really transformed my life since I started medication, so I felt, you know, like, okay, like, I want to try life without medication, because if I want to start a family, then, like, if I'm pregnant, I can't take lithium, so I would rather, like on a personal level, honestly, I would rather figure this out like before I have a baby growing inside me, you know what I mean, like what I'm like off lithium. And the best way I can kind of describe it overall is that I feel more colorful now, whereas before, and I didn't even really realize this when I was taking them, but it was like my medication kind of made me beige. So I feel more, and I got more psychic for sure. But anyways, yeah, and I did just kind of like express that to my boss, whatever, and she was really willing to like work with me and everything, and like understand where I was coming from and stuff. And like we have, like, I really value having her as like a mentor and stuff too, and she knows like I have a track record of like consistency and like being a good employee and being a good leader. But I really needed this week to like recalibrate. And mind you, I still did 3 or 4 hours of work every day, but it's just like I wasn't going like full out, like able to show up and be my best self, but I still was showing up while I was taking that time to like recalibrate. And I did just kind of have to take time to communicate, like, okay, because it was a lot of things that were coming up for me where like when I was in fashion school, like when I was like, I don't know, 21, 22, like I wasn't medicated at this point in time. And like I knew there was something, I knew when I was 12 years old I was bipolar, but I wasn't able to get a diagnosis till I was 22, because doctors are just, they, in an old earth, very reluctant to diagnose things and help people. But anyways, yeah, again, my teachers could tell like I have this track record of like, okay, this is like an intellectual, like creative person, whatever, but it was like I just struggled in like these little ways. And I wasn't diagnosed with bipolar. I didn't have like an actual way to explain myself to them, but I was like, I would get insomnia for like weeks at a time. Like I couldn't sleep. So literally one morning I was like writing an exam, and I looked at my teacher, like she walked by or whatever. I was like, do you have a number, like an address for a hospital? And I had to take myself to the hospital because I hadn't slept in days, and they tried to like put me in like the loony bin, and I was like, I'm gonna leave. Like, no thank you. Like I just felt like no matter where I turned, I was not getting like the answers I needed to be able to like explain myself, right? But again, like my teachers trusted me, and I was still like one of the top students in my class. I don't even know where I was going with this. Sorry. We're going in circles right now. This will come back to me. Oh, okay, me telling my boss I was bipolar, right? So that was like a scary thing for me to do because, again, I had never done it. There's such a stigma around that illness, but I had to acknowledge to her, like, you know, like I could go back on my medication, like that's not my first choice, but I'm like I haven't been off my meds since the summer of 2022. This is the first time, like in summer 2025, this is the first time that my brain feels the way it did in 2022, and I think part of that was because like my work was so inconsistent and whatever, because I was still doing everything I could to take care of me. Like I've been walking 10,000 steps a day. Yesterday was 41 days straight. Go me. I look fucking fantastic. Like I was looking in the mirror the other day, and even like when I take selfies now, I'm just like, whoa, like I look so good, and I'm not even doing anything extreme to get results. I'm just being consistent and showing up for me, right? So anyways, that was like something that I had to kind of overcome, like the fear of like, okay, people see me like in my workplace, they see me as a person who is like very dependable, very consistent, and right now like I am in crisis mentally, and so I had to like face that fear and like admit like, hey, I contain multitudes, and like if we're gonna be able to work together, I need you to accept me as I am, and like, you know, understand like, okay, this is what I'm struggling with, but I have a plan to bounce back from this. Just like trust the process with me. And they were able to do that. And so since I'm able to trust my own process, like I'm able to pull myself out of hard situations, right? And so like I've been like reparenting myself at all those past ages, and like even like a lot of emotions were coming up for me this week that like made me feel like I was 22 again, and I just couldn't get it together no matter how hard I tried. And I didn't want to make those anyone else's problem, right? So it's like I did kind of just take a few hours like for myself to just sit with myself and be like, okay, like why do I feel the way that I feel? Like what is going on with me right now? And then I was able to explain myself. And that is kind of like a problem with society right now, is like a lot of people aren't willing to explain themselves. And my friend Justin and I were kind of talking about this, and he was saying that like it's kind of like, I guess, a result of like childhood trauma, like your parents just not understanding you. But it's like that's just like natural to me, I guess. Like how I was telling him is like I've always been like very like intelligent, intellectual. Like I would use words my parents wouldn't even understand. So like, you know, I'd say something, and first of all they'd be on like a basic level, like what does that word even mean? And then on top of that, I might have to actually go back and explain my feelings and break things down on a granular level. So it's like I am just accustomed to that, and I know that if I want to be understood, I have to explain myself. So I think like overall that's one thing that like we can all get better at, is like first of all explaining ourselves and being willing to like listen to others who can explain themselves instead of just canceling them. Like instead of canceling someone, be willing to ask them. Be like, hey, I noticed that you did this thing, and that doesn't really seem to align with maybe who you are now or like what you say you're for. Can you explain that? What would they say, I wonder? Because right now it's just like we live in a culture of like immediately canceling people, and then the response is like, let's say they're a celebrity, then they hire like a crisis PR team, and that crisis PR team crafts a statement that the public wants to hear. But there's no authenticity in that. There's no opportunity for the person to like, yeah, sure, they take accountability, but they're not able to explain to you where they were coming from, maybe what influenced them to do that, so then someone else could hear that story and say, oh, actually I went through that too, and I was able to overcome that, or that's where I am right now, and since you overcame that, I can overcome that too. But we're just putting band-aids over things. Or like how I saw it the other day was like in like an insane asylum, I think sometimes, you know, they might like put padded walls or whatever so a person can't like hurt themselves, and that's kind of how like we've built our society to be, is like, you know, there's all these padded walls because people don't want to get bruised, but like that's very egoic of you, because the soul, on a soul level, you should know, like, I am here and things are going to happen to me, and life is not going to be perfect. It's not supposed to be perfect. That's the ego wants it to be perfect. The ego wants to be comfortable. The ego is able to go on Instagram and see the person with $40 million and a mansion and whatever, and you think, oh, my life should be that way. But comparison is the thief of joy. Like, your life is what it is, and you have to respond to that, and you have to work with it, like, with what you get, and that is the gift. Right? So I think a lot of people are just, they're just living very distorted lives right now. And as you realize these things, you might start to have tower moments. And as towers crumble, that can be overwhelming, because you're like, oh my God, my whole life was a lie. And it can take a minute to bounce back from that, but that doesn't mean you need to be afraid. That just means you need to like deal with what comes up as it comes up. Spiritual awakenings are hard. They're not easy, but it's like you get to choose your hard, right? Like there's also the hard of trying to go back into like the old world once you know what you know now know, and like trying to like I'm seeing Alice in Wonderland, like, you know, when she eats the cookie or whatever, and then all of a sudden she's growing really big and she doesn't fit anymore. that's what happens is, like, because when you open yourself up spiritually, like, you know so much, you see things so differently, and then if you're trying to cram yourself back into a smaller world, it just doesn't work. So you need to expand and allow yourself to expand and trust that what is meant to expand with you will. Okay, my next point, actually, I kind of just wrote here about containing multitudes. So I said, why do people think they shouldn't have to explain themselves? Ask yourself, why do you think that? Because people can't just read your fucking mind. They can't, and they shouldn't have to, and you shouldn't have to read other people's minds, so be willing to listen. And your story and your process might help change the world. Just in you, instead of taking it as an attack, if someone asks you to explain yourself, don't be so defensive. Just say, hey, my name is Joe Blow, and I do ABC because XYZ. And own that, because someone might need to know that, like, the way you do things, like, that could help them. And also, I wrote down, I think I already talked about this, but I said, how you view someone isn't actually who they are. It's just one part of them. So someone could see, like, that I posted, like, a Kanye West link on my Tumblr and be like, oh my god, that is a terrible person because Kanye West stands for this. But it's like, that is just, like, one tiny little aspect of me. Like, okay, I like a song, but then also it's like, I'm over here trying to change the world. And, like, I have, like, this great YouTube channel. I have a whole blog where I'm always, like, posting inspirational things. And I'm living by example. Like, I'm really out here doing the damn thing. So if you're gonna, like, let yourself hate me because of one tiny little fragment aspect of me, that says a lot more about you than it does about me. You can't accept your own multitudes, and that's why you can't accept them in others. And then I said, if people are stuck in guilt and shame, they can't possibly serve their purpose because they're too afraid of triggering others to be in authentic expression. And this is what is leading to Attack of the Clones. A lot of women these days, again, there's, like, I've said this before, there's, like, 6 archetype of woman, and, like, I don't know, like, women are just, like, afraid to be like, oh my god, I have an original thought. And, like, one thing, I was talking to my friend Justin about this, I do, just in general, I was telling him, like, I feel more comfortable talking to men than women about these things, because I think women sometimes, like, we can really, like, try to defend people who are, like, you know, the underdog and struggling and whatever, but, like, I think that there's a lack of tolerance for listening to, like, white women, and this is, again, cancel culture, but it's like, if a white woman isn't just, like, making a recipe or, like, I don't know, just, like, saying basic things, it's like no one really thinks there's any merit to it. I'm not saying across the board, but, like, this is just what I've observed over the past 10 years. So it's kind of like, you know, give people, again, the benefit of the doubt, and remember, like, they have more than one aspect to them. Like, I made a little mini, like, yap on, like, my Tumblr before. I was telling the story of, like, this girl who lives in my neighborhood with her grandparents, and I think she has substance abuse issues, which, again, is something I struggled with in the past. I'm, like, 3 years sober now. But so one time she, like, ran out of her grandparents' house. My dad and I were out for a walk, and she's, like, in, like, dire straits, like, clearly not doing so well. I think she might have been drunk or something, so I, like, stop her. I'm like, are you okay? Like, do you need me to call the police? Like, genuinely, like, human to human, trying to check with her, like, see if she needs anything. And, you know, instead of, like, accepting my kindness, she went immediately into, like, a fear state. And she's like, what would you even know about it? Like, you're so happy you're out walking with your husband. I'm out walking with my dad. I'm your age. I've been where you've been before. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to connect with you. But because in your mind you are so afraid, then you're having a distorted view of the world. I literally, I made a video, God, like a few months ago. It's called We Can't Build Our Dreams on Suspicious Minds. Similar story. Literally this time last year, walking in my neighborhood, I had a bottle of water with me that I did not open. It was like a sealed plastic bottle of water. I'm 20 steps from my house on my way home. I see a homeless woman with some dogs sitting under a tree. I stop. I felt called. Literally, I'm at the top of the hill. I see her at the bottom. Voices in my head told me, offer your water to that woman. Who am I to argue? So I stop. I'm like, hey, I was just wondering, would you like this water? And she's like, lady, I'm a wicked witch of the West if you're trying to poison me, blah, 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 blah. I was like, girl, I'm just trying to offer you this water. It's sealed. If you would like it, it's yours. But it's like, that is how society is right now. There's projection, there's lashing out, there's blah, 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 blah. Like, people are so, like, if you see one thing that doesn't align with you on someone's blog, you think they are poison. You think they are the problem. You think that, like, oh, I found the problem. Okay, I've flagged that. This is the bad person. Now I can go back to being righteous. I can go back to being myself. And you think that you don't have to look at the man in the mirror. But that's your only job, to look at the man in the mirror. Like, I don't want to hear about what you discovered from looking at so-and-so's blog that, like, you don't like. I want to hear about what you discovered from going deep within yourself and, like, uncovering maybe something that, like, troubled you as a child that now in your 20s you're able to come back to and, like, heal from. Like, just things like that. I want to hear about what's going on with you. Oh my god, Emma and I, what did I say to her? I said something like, people can tell you more about the Marvel Cinematic Universe than they can their own heart and soul. That's not right. That's not right. Like, you need to understand you. Because being an NPC, like, that's why you feel like NPCs, or that's what NPCs are, basically, are just, like, people who are, like, copycatting or, like, absorbing everything else, like, but, like, you know, just absorbing all this information, whatever. It's great to learn, whatever, but if you're not using that knowledge to, like, go deeper within yourself, I'm not saying all of it all the time has to be, like, so deep and woo-woo and whatever, but I'm just saying, like, we need a bit more of that. Nothing changes if nothing changes, and the times they are changing, so you better start swimming or you'll stink, period. You will stink, but you'll sink like a stone. Let me drink some water. I have some cards, but I think I might post 2 videos because this is quite long. So I think that's what I'll do again this week. We'll take a break now, and yeah, I'll talk about the cards in a different video. I hope this helps whoever needs it. But I think I'm going to call the title of this one, actually real quick, we're going to call this, I Know Vengeance is the Lord's and It's Not For Me. That is a J. Cole lyric, but it has always, like, really resonated with me because it is so much easier to just let go. You know, if you see things that piss you off, like, it's not up to you to, like, set other people straight or whatever, you know, like, unless it's, like, actually genuinely, like, one-to-one in your relationships with them, like, you can easily just, like, unfollow or block that person, yeah, sure, but it's, like, it's not your responsibility to cancel people. That's up to God. God can decide who's canceled, but we as humans, we don't really, why are we trying to do that? It's a bit much, innit? So, give it to God. Focus on your purpose. We need you out here, soldiers.